Hello, this is Lynn Johnson, co-founder and CEO of Spotlight Girls, and today I am being joined by Dr. Christine Carter, sociologist and best-selling author of The Sweet Spot and Raising Happiness. Christine, good afternoon. How are you?
Good. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. I will also, in full disclosure, also introduce you as my friend. I've known you for a long time, and I know your daughters, and I'm taught your daughters in our camp, and so I'm so excited to talk to you today about all the amazing things that you're working on right now. And I'm always inspired by you and your work, and I want to hear how your daughters are doing, and how it all kind of goes together, how our work fits together to help people out in the world. Yeah?
Yeah, sounds good. I think it's important. I think it's important to note that we were friends through our work first, right? Like we became, we knew each other, like you knew me through my work and I knew you through your work before.
That's right.
We became personal friends.
That's right.
That's yes. A long history, right? But I think that we were first matched by our work.
Yes.
So it's totally appropriate that here we are 10 or more years later.
10 or more years later. I do want to tell that story because I like that story. Because it was I want to get to the latest book, but we met during the time of Raising Happiness. And that was, you were doing a speech somewhere at some school, some event, and I was just so blown away by what you were saying and the science of happiness and what that means and the Greater Good Science Center. And it was like a huge eye-opening experience for me. And I remember, kind of going up to this amazing speaker afterwards and wanting to talk to you. And you said, "Oh, wait, I know you. You teach my kid drama." And then I was like, okay, I think I can feel comfortable around this brilliant person.
Yeah, my older daughter Fiona was so totally obsessed, hero worshipped you.
So can we just go back a little bit to kind of a throwback to Raising Happiness, and just talk a little bit about what that means to kind of be a happiness expert, and what you were trying to do for parents at that time in your book.
Since we're being totally honest here, I was really anxious as a parent at first, and not particularly happy. And I come from a long line of anxious women, right? Both sides of the family. Uh-huh. And I just really, and then so separately from that, so I was pregnant with Fiona, and knowing that I was anxious, but also studying positive emotions. And I just got to this place where it was like, wow, I don't have to be this way, right? And I want the long line of anxious women in our family to stop here. I didn't know I was having a girl at the time, but I was pretty clear that I felt like I had the tools. There was all this new, at that time, it was really new science, positive psychology, and it was totally new. I was the only sociologist looking at positive emotions at the time, and for a very long time, right? Sociology never really caught up with the positive psychology movement. But for me, I came out of the business world looking at why certain business units were more creative or innovative than others, and then went into grad school in looking at how businesses, schools, families, any sort of social structure elicits certain emotions from the people within it and inhibits others, right? Through culture, through habits, through all those kinds of things. And so I kind of went from businesses and creativity right over to the family and happiness, and then schools and happiness. And now I've kind of come full circle, and I'm doing all of those things. I'm much more focused on adults.
Yeah.
I was always focused on adults because I was focused on myself as a parent, right?
Right.
But it was through the lens of raising happy children.
Yeah, and I, for those folks out there who are watching this, if you have not, if you don't have this book on your bookshelf, Raising Happiness, you should. It was my favorite parenting book before I was a parent, and so much of the work in there has informed our Go Girls culture code and how we as adults just in general work with the children that we work with at camp. And now that I'm a parent, I actually think I have like 2 or 3 copies of the book with like different notes in it. So
I gave them to you probably.
Yeah. No, I think I bought them. I also buy them. For a while, I was buying them for people who it was like my gift to people who had babies. That was one thing. Yeah. So now, and I feel like I'm kind of growing up with you, because now this latest book, The Sweet Spot, it's for all adults, parents or otherwise, right? And it's really speaking to me in my life as an entrepreneur, because you have a whole thing about how we can accomplish more by doing less. Can you please explain how that's possible?
Definitely possible. I mean, I think so this is once again like drawing on all the science that we have around productivity and elite performance, and really I've been looking a lot at what it means to focus, for example, in a world of distractions.
Yes.
And what the core skills are. And so, maybe to back up a little bit, what I would say is that that book was born out of this realization that what we think of as an ideal worker, right? The ideal entrepreneur, the ideal writer, the ideal whatever type of work you do, we have these really massive mistaken beliefs about what makes somebody ideal. They're based on the dawn of the industrial age, right? We formed our opinions about what it means to work for a company, right, of some sort, or in a business of some sort, from the sort of factory model, right? And where for the first time, so that sort of coincided with the time being synchronized across towns, because the trains were hitting people who were trying to get to work. Like the trains weren't running. They needed to have a way to synchronize time across space, geographical space. And then at the same time became a measure of productivity, right? Because things were being produced. And so we got this concept of time and of work from that. Now, that was 200 years ago, right? Or 150 years ago. And we still think busyness is a sign of productivity, and that our ideal worker is somebody who can just work all the time, right? This is very problematic in our culture today, because we can work all the time, right?
All the time.
You can you have a little computer to work on in your pocket at all times, and in fact, I didn't turn mine off. I should probably.
I know. I'm
I'm going to do some sort of other work while I'm doing this. Anyway, so it's kind of gotten out of control, the working all the time thing, and I came to this realization myself when I just, it all started to happen just as Raising Happiness was really very successful, and I was speaking and coaching and doing all these things. I had it all. I had kids, I had time with my family, I had this great career that was more than I ever dreamed of, and I was so freaking tired all the time, because I did all my best work, all my think work at night, after the kids went to bed, and I got sick. I was sick for a really long time, and I, blah, blah, blah. You've heard the story, Lynn, but basically I realized that my sense of what makes us good at our jobs was totally off. It was based on these cultural beliefs, and it was driving certain behaviors, which were actually harming me more than they were helping.
Wow. And I'm wondering about, since, as our organization is really is focused on girls and women, and girls in particular, and I'm wondering, to me that so much of this is so relevant to women specifically. I know that all of us are overworked, men and women, for sure.
It's more, my focus has really been, on both and people in the tech industry and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, I feel like I need to adjust because I'm being blinded by the sun, which is now coming down. I'm not ruining your recording.
Yes,
Everybody can just totally, like, I'm trying to figure out a way to not. There we go. How's that?
You're like glowing like an angel.
I know. Sorry. I hope you can cut that out. If you can't, thanks everyone for bearing. Okay. So how does it apply to women? I mean, we've always been sort of victims of the ideal worker, right? Like our notion about what makes somebody ideal by definition excludes mothers, for example, right? Parents in general, but mostly mothers, right? Fathers tend to be rewarded. Mothers tend to be seen as, they cannot meet this ideal of somebody who can dedicate themselves wholeheartedly without any reservations to their work. So there are no children to be dropped off or picked up at school or daycare. You could take a business trip at any time, right? You can work 24/7 if that's what the client needs. And so and at the same time, all this research started coming out showing that the wage gap between men and women is largely driven by corporations and entire industries that really do depend on the sort of ideal worker, which is to say really long hours, really inflexible in terms of accommodating any sort of personal life. Okay, so there's that research on one hand, which is like it's being driven by the sort of like old hangers on to the and then there's all this other research that shows that that people in the who do what I call think work, right? Like office jobs, who are being paid to think, they really max out in terms of their ability to produce good work at 6 hours a day. They're much more creative when the more interesting their personal life is and the more diverse number of activities that they do, right? Like, so that they have not just hobbies, but they also have kids, and not just kids and hobbies, but they have like really interesting extracurricular kinds of things that they do. Their hobbies are not like running around a track, for example.
Right.
So
it's like knitting or
not like going
ultimate frisbee or something.
Yeah. Or like one of the guys I was talking to, I'm like, oh, you totally fit into this study. He's a pediatric neuropsychologist who is doing all this really innovative work, and he in his spare time has family, but he also he builds model airplanes and then flies them on the weekends. I'm like, who does that? But it's like these people have quirky interests, and they just sort of follow their own thing. They have really rich personal lives. This is the thing, that they have extremely rich personal lives, and that like in this knowledge economy, right, where we're being paid to think, we need to be creative, and we need to be happy, right? There's a lot of other evidence that keeping our stress levels down increases the amount of work that we get done, our productivity, but also really the quality of our work. So we need to be creative and happy, and we need to be healthy, right? Like I was sick all the time, not super sick, but like had strep throat for 18 months, which is like terrible, right? Like you don't want that, right? You can still work, it turns out. You just don't do that. Was that like you look at that period of time in my life, and nothing good got done. Yeah. Right. So so anyway.
Yeah. I think of like how that manifests itself in our children who are modeling our behavior for, right? Modeling behavior for.
Right.
And, you think about how, how you want to show up for them. Like, you don't want to show up for them in terms of being like this mommy who's like always freaking out and always sick. I mean, I'm actually feeling kind of like that right now. Encountering your work is making me go, oh my gosh. Like I'm saying to my daughter a lot, I'm tired and, I'm not showing up for her. And she's like, always seeing me working. One day she came up to me and she said, she called me something that was so funny. First of all, she always says, "You're working? What you do? You working?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm working." And then she'll say, "Oh gosh," she called me this really funny name that I can't remember. But it was like some funny like nickname, like worky workers. Oh, she told me worky workerson, something like that.
Yeah.
Like on some level, I'm very proud that my daughter participates in my camp and she loves it and she like loves that I own it and she's really proud of that and she's proud that both her mommies are like had made this thing happen, and that's fantastic. And I also want her to know me as like relaxed
yeah,
and stress-free and all of that. And so it's so important that that's something that I'm doing it for myself and for the other people who I'm around and inspiring, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that our kids learn how to integrate work and life and to fulfill our potential is what we do, right? So, when she sees that you still see your friends, she will know that it's really always important to make time for your friends. When she sees, and she'll also know that it's iterative, right? Like we go through, it's cyclical, but I always hope that it's kind of an upward spiral, right? Like we get really good at integrating these things and we learn new tips and ways of managing things, and then things get better and better and there's more balance and integration, and she experiences you as more fulfilled and working but happy working versus like working, like, and then something happens, like she gets sick, for example, and everything sort of falls apart. Everybody gets sick and you get tired and stressed and you sort of drop back down, but you land at a higher place than you started before.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. I keep thinking about, so I keep using this phrase, girl advocates. So those of us who are either raising our own girls or, people who teach girls or people who like really are doing the work to help girls take center stage in their life, how to help girls like access the power of their voices, their bodies, their imaginations to make bold and brave choices. And so I'm thinking about like, what we girl advocates need to be able to show up for them. And this is like a huge thing for me, this kind of modeling. I know that the first thing we need is to really investigate these things in ourselves as adults, right? And to be able to create that example. And that's one of the things that, comes from your first book, is this idea of the oxygen mask, right? Like we got to put the oxygen mask on ourselves and care about our own health, happiness, and well-being first, right? Just as much, if not more than like our kids. Sometimes it's like we sometimes feel like we have to put everything out there for our kids, but then we have nothing left to give, right? So, yeah.
Lack of oxygen.
Right. Yeah. And so what you're talking about, this kind of new research that you're talking about is so fascinating, because it's like, how do I really show up? And I show up by like not always having to show up, right? Putting my phone away and not multitasking and giving myself time to unplug and rest.
Modeling like honest yeses and honest nos to people, and yeah.
So you're raising 2 daughters.
I'm actually raising 3 now.
You're raising 3 daughters. That's right. You're raising 3 daughters. They're all adolescents.
Yes, they are all adolescents. They are 13, 15, and 16.
And how's that going?
Oh, it's so good. I love it so much.
Yeah.
So much. The teenager thing is not scary. Don't worry. People always are like, oh, you have all these teenagers. So I have 2 stepkids. I have a stepson too.
Yeah.
And,
he's also an adolescent. So you have 4 adolescents.
14, yeah. I know, 13, 14, 15, and 16 right now.
That's amazing. And so, so what are your biggest celebrations and concerns in terms of raising your daughters to take center stage in the world?
Well, I have lots. But I'm thinking about this and talking to you. One of the biggest things that I am concerned about will be all the demands on their attention, right? So I feel like there are so many corporations out there basically that are paying for their eyeballs and for their attention. And that the world has become so stimulating for them, right? Like social media and technology and just media in general has, it is really different. Like the conversations that when I was a teenager, I was not allowed to watch our movies until I was 16. And that was like awesome because technically you had to be 17, right?
Right.
Wow. And trying to hold that line for my own kids, I just feel like everything is so much looser. Like the boys have they've been exposed to horrible things like hardcore porn and all kinds of things that there's just so much exposure.
Yeah.
So, and now I'm like, go ahead and watch The Breakfast Club. Like the movie that I wasn't allowed to watch till I was 16 seems positively mild.
It's so mild. I know.
I'm like, but no, you cannot watch Homeland,
Right.
I know, I don't know. I just feel like the media world is totally something for us as parents to really contend with.
Yeah.
And it's super hard, right? Like there's a lot of I think especially with teenagers, right? I'm glad that my kids had the upbringing that they did, and now I don't feel like the parenting has lessened at all. It's become more intense, right? They need so much structure because it's not that I'm trying to protect them. I'm helping them integrate and deal with all the stuff that's coming at them.
And how to navigate through so much of it. I mean, because like you said, there's the media, but there's also, because of media, they're exposed to all the stuff in the real world too, like the stuff that we just didn't know. It might have been happening, but we didn't know it was happening. And now they know, and some of it's exciting. Like some of it, we see, it's exciting that our girls or our children have an opportunity to, get involved in social justice and politics and all these things. And that's great. And it's a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Without a doubt, they're doing such interesting creative projects, and almost all of them involve technology and media, right? And at the same time, that world has changed a lot to become much more stimulating. And oh my gosh, now I'm on fire again. There we go. It's just a lot for the human brain, much less an adolescent brain or a developing brain, to try and handle. And so I'm very conscious of how that affects their ability to truly be that ideal worker that I was talking about. And hopefully, I don't need them to be corporate robots or anything like that. I just mean for them, their own selves. How will they fulfill their potential in the world of work, right? Like, how do you develop creativity? It is not by answering your email all day or being a slave to Instagram, or by, keeping yourself so highly stimulated through entertainment media. So, you know what I mean? So what is the real ideal worker? Somebody who can focus, somebody who is creative, somebody who can manage their stress levels, right? Mm-hmm. How do we raise kids in this world where the naturally novelty-seeking human brain has constant stimulation all the time, and that stimulation will keep them from reaching their potential in terms of creativity, intelligence, happiness, all these things that we really care about. Focus. right? It will keep them from focusing, and that will keep them from doing any sort of deep work, and like really, will limit them.
So that's the environment that we try to create in our Go Girls programs, is one that is, technology free for the most part. We do have a media camp now where it's about kind of navigating media and creating through media, as opposed to consuming media. And I know at one point back when Fiona and Molly were part of Go Girls Camp. That was, now maybe 5 years ago now or something, because now they're that old. Wow. Anyway, one of the things you said at the time was you appreciated how at Go Girls Camp there was, there was time. First of all, there was time for unstructured play, which is really important. But there's also, wasn't more about that.
No, I just think that like unstructured playtime is really huge, right? Like it's, and they don't have that as much, right? Even in all their activities, every little move is totally prescribed. And so I felt like it was this great holding space for them to be imaginative.
Yeah. And now so that's great. And now I'm actually hearing a kind of more information about what I think that we could be doing right in this, and that is creating an opportunity for our girls to really unplug and create, right? So they get a chance to, so in the time that is structured at Go Girls, it's structured in this way that's like, we bring the girls together and we provide the structures of that facilitate them kind of collaborating and putting their ideas together in this creative process that then comes out at the end. They're like, yay, people celebrate it and clap for them. And that's, and we can't underestimate that, right? Because that's not something that they're getting from the media and all the distractions. They're not getting that. And so it's valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very valuable. And for me, I really feel like what's also valuable about that is that because of all the identity work that they're doing there, like seeing themselves as strong, capable girls, right? They're then able to change the messages that are being put out there in the media. They can see themselves as creators of media and not just consumers, and not necessarily, in terms of numbers, they could have the power that corporations do, right? And the corporations will change if the girls do, right? Like right now, so Fiona is 15, and I just had a really interesting conversation with her about self-objectification and why girls do it, right? And basically, like the whole sort of Kardashian media, whatever you call it, I don't know. It's like
right there, empire.
Oh, empire. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Right, like that. She sees that girls today have a choice. They can't. It's not that they can't be powerful. They can be powerful, but they can be powerful in a way that is really authentic to their essential self, or they can be powerful in a way that is really true to a sort of social world that they identify with, but that also objectifies them and weakens them in many ways. So I really feel like I look at my girls and they don't wear makeup and they're just like totally, I'm very happy to see how sure of themselves they are and how little they care about what other people think. And I think that that's because when they were younger, they did programs like Go Girls where they learned to find that voice and to trust it in a way that they have carried they're sailing through middle school.
Yeah.
And high school.
That's fantastic. And we see it, we see it. Luckily we get to keep up with a lot of the girls who we've taught. Some of them, we keep up with them because they're working for us now, and they're inspiring other girls, and it's a beautiful thing to see. It's a beautiful thing to see that that these girls feel like Fiona and Molly, and are like, yeah, like I'm just who I am, and that's just and we take that for I don't know. I see a lot of girls like that, so I take it for granted when I see girls. You know, when I was at something recently, an event for girls, and I overheard an adolescent girl. There was like dancing, Zumba dancing happening, and I overheard a girl who was probably about Molly's age go, "Oh, I can't dance. I'm not even going to try." And I was like, right, like more girls say stuff like that than the girls I work with. Yeah, more girls are like that than are like Molly, right? And so, you know, I feel like there's so much work to do still.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, then I'd love, so given that, so I feel like there's work to do. I'm in this campaign raising money from possible investors to grow the work that we do. And so as I'm doing that, and as people are watching this and considering making an investment, you know, given what we've been talking about kind of supporting our girls in this distracted world, what would you have them, what kind of impact do you think that their investment can make if we're able to really grow this? What do you think could happen?
Well, you know, as a sociologist, I'm always really interested in all these mistaken beliefs that I was talking about before, right? Like, so our culture is loaded with these beliefs that affect the quality of our lives, our behavior, our habits, our emotions. And I think it's just really important to have organizations out there that are creating culture, that are shaping society in a way that isn't driven by money, right? That isn't driven by, like, they don't care whether you sell out or you don't, right? Like, that it's driven by this truly social mission to help girls be their strongest, most secure, most authentic, happiest selves, right? To learn to navigate this world that they're living in a way that ultimately brings them joy and security from the things that really matter, right? I think it's really actually very important for us to put our money where our mouths are, right? To invest in alternatives to just consuming the culture that's out there, that the parts of the culture, which are the majority parts of the culture, that do not care whether our girls are happy and creative and stress-free. It just cares where they spend their money.
Yeah. Wow, that's inspiring to me, actually. But it's going to inspire me to go and get a little rest. So
yeah,
that I go and work right after this, because I've been working all day.
It's Friday afternoon.
It's Friday afternoon.
Like, the sun finally went down in my office, right?
So you filled me up so that I can go and rest. In fact, I think actually what I get to do now is one of our amazing Go Girls teachers, Fiona, is coming over, has volunteered to spend a couple of hours with my daughter, so that Allison and I can go and just have a couple hour a little mini date. So that's happening in just 20 minutes.
Woo!
So that's what I'm going to do right now. Yes, I'm going to do that. And when I get back to work again at some point in the next couple of days, I am really inspired by what you are by this, and by really that responsibility that we have here at Spotlight Girls to provide that opportunity for girls to really counteract all those forces that are like, you're a number, like that objectify girls in every way, by their bodies, by their pocketbooks, by all of that. And so I'm really taking that responsibility and inspired by this conversation. Thank you, Christine.
Yay. I'm so glad you're doing the work you're doing, Lynn. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Everyone, Dr. Christine Carter, buy all of her books. Bye.